Good evening and welcome to another edition of Mental Health Mondays, brought to you by Saving Grace Community Church and Grace South Cincinnati, a ministry and nonprofit of Saving Grace Community Church. Good evening to our co-host and our cohort, Dr. Quentin Moss, President, Founder, and Chief Medical Officer of Modern Psychiatry. Good evening to you.
Good evening, brother. Good to be here, man.
Good to see your face. It's been a heat wave today, and I think we're winding down with the cicadas, which I think everybody who is watching is hopeful of that.
Yeah.
Well, just a month ago, the nation was on pause. Fireworks were going off, parades were being held, in great jubilation of Mother's Day. There was a lot of fanfare about Mother's Day. But as I often say that in comparison, when it comes to celebrating fathers, there's not much jubilation or fanfare. And some of it has to do the way fathers have performed, and sometimes it has something to do with how fathers are presented in media. And so we just want to talk about today and deal with fabulous fathers.
Mm-hmm.
We know, just like all of us or anyone, fathers can be flawed. They're not perfect, but just as all of us have flaws, there are some elements that are just outstanding and fabulous. I think there's the good, the bad, and the ugly of fatherhood. I myself am a father of 3, and you are a father of 5, correct?
That's right.
So, Dr. Moss, tell me, for you, how do you like being a father?
Yeah, I love being a father, and even as I get older, my oldest son is 20, about to turn 21, and we have our twins, which are 11, about to turn 12.
Mm-hmm.
And I spend more and more time trying to perfect my role as a father.
Wow.
Trying to learn more, try to assume the various roles. As a father, you're you're a coach, you're a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
you're sometimes a disciplinarian, you're a guide, you're a cuddle buddy. You have all of these roles that you're trying to fulfill, and I don't think that I ever get them all right, but I'm always trying to learn how I can better fulfill those roles in a customized way for 5 kids, because each of those kids need those roles in a little different way. So
You're absolutely right. When you think about fatherhood, and one of the persons who's been very outspoken and a proponent of fatherhood and how critical fatherhood is former President Barack Obama. And tonight we're going to share a few clips from a former president. I believe the best president we've ever had as a nation of all time, without argument. And so I just want to play this clip because it really speaks about how he views fatherhood.
I still remember when my first daughter, Malia, was born, and we brought her home. And that first night, she's sleeping in our room in the little bassinet next to our bed. And I couldn't sleep because, first of all, I had the usual thing that first-time parents do. Is she still breathing? Is she okay? Because they're so small and they look so delicate, although they're tougher than they look. But it was also the notion that, you suddenly have this new life here, and you're responsible for them. And you are going to make an enormous difference by just the smallest of gestures, just a hug or a kiss or singing a song to them. And it really, I think, entirely changes your perspective in a way that continues to grow as you get older.
I think that's a very accurate assessment. I believe that when Barack Obama speaks, he really gives the impression that fatherhood is a gift, and it is a special privilege. And when we're giving kids in our care, it's something to behold. How would you say, Dr. Moss, fatherhood has changed you?
Oh goodness. I've had to pull from strengths that I didn't realize that I had, and I really had to increase my spiritual life because I had to pull from things that I didn't think that I had within me.
Mhm.
And I love my grandparents. I was raised by my grandparents primarily. My parents are still alive. I love what they've done, but I've had to go into and use things that I didn't necessarily always have access to as a child, and learn how to be able to do some of those things.
Mhm.
So it's allowed me to depend more on God for guidance and how I'm supposed to interact with my kids. And I'm still depending on him today to try to still figure it out. So.
And I think that's the beauty of of being a father and being one who is a person, a man of faith, is that you can share with your children uh, without any kind of reservations when you didn't get something right, and sharing with them, hey, I'm doing the best I can. And I think the more and more times change, and the more our kids change, it's important for us to be transparent and say, hey, I snapped when I shouldn't have snapped. I didn't see that coming, and I believe that that's something that really children value is the honesty and openness of their father. And so having a father's critical and important, and our father figure. It's really believed that studies have revealed that children who have father figures or stepdads are less likely to develop a criminal record. They're more likely to do well in school, and they have a greater chance of really getting a job and maintaining that job. And so the National Center on Fatherhood reports that there are 20 million children who are growing up without a dad in the home or a father figure in their life. And based on statistics, are at risk of not becoming fruitful and productive citizens. Now, of course, that doesn't mean because someone has those things stacked against them that they won't be successful or they won't be able to overcome those things. But what it suggests to them is that with that type of support, whether it is a grandmother, grandfather, or an uncle, or someone behind them saying, look, I want you to succeed, that there's a greater possibility of that happening. And so when you talk about what something that your grandfather, what is something that he instilled in you that you instill in your children?
One of the things that comes to mind is work ethic.
Mhm.
My grandfather, he was a worker.
Mhm.
At most times that I can remember, he had 2 or 3 jobs, and I was fortunate enough, didn't see it as much at the time then, but I was fortunate enough to go with him when he would clean offices at night,
Mm.
or when he would, deliver, packages to ships, which was his main job, to go with him and be a part of that. And then all the stuff that had to be done around the house, whether it's chopping wood, putting wood in the stove, cleaning the
Wow.
ashes out, or trying to
Did
help
you
him underneath the
say
fire.
did you say chopping wood and putting wood in the stove?
Yeah.
I thought you were in your 40s. That's why.
So,
Wow.
yeah, so that showed me the benefit and the importance of work.
Mhm.
And that is something that I try to instill in my children, though it's a bit more challenging because their life is much more cush than what my life was, growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But still trying to do that. As a matter of fact, today was my second son's first day of work. So
Wow, wow.
we were celebrating that today. So
Okay, okay, okay. So you told him what to do once he gets the check, right?
talked about saving, tithing, and investing. So that's where he's at.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Some, the dads cover the spectrum. There. And you mentioned in terms of the roles that dads have to play, and how they have to be the care they give their children is really child specific, because just like a mother, certain things are more effective in approaches. Certain approaches are more effective with the particular child, and that there's some things that I think fathers give to all their children, but there's some things that are definitely specific. And so there's some dads that are really serious all the time, and there's some that are a little bit uh, lighthearted. Here's a movie dad, and this is just a brief scene, and I think you'll recognize the character.
We're gonna have the best looking house in town, Russ. I've always wanted to do this.
It's a lot of lights, Dad.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's a lot of work too, but if I'm out in the cold and I'm committed to decorating the house, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna do it big. You want something you can be proud of, don't you?
Yeah, I guess so.
Sure you do.
Think you might be overdoing it, Dad?
Russ, when was the last time I overdid anything? Come on, unravel these. You have to check every bulb. Whoops, got a little knot here. You work on that. I'll get the other box.
The very famous Clark Griswold in that movie is just hilarious. In fact, it's when they go up on the roof and the lights don't light up. But some of us have had fathers like that were a little more animated, a little more, come on, let's do this together. Let's have a little fun. And so I don't know how many people we will have that'll be from the Griswold family. But certainly we've got it. Fathers cover the gamut. We're happy now to have joining with us is Andre Rogers. He is from the Fatherhood Project. Thank you for joining us tonight, Andre.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm sorry for the late update.
It is okay. It's okay. Technology happens. Okay.
Amen.
So, Dre, tell me a little bit about what you do at the Fatherhood program, and share a little bit about what it means for you to be a father.
Absolutely. Well, with the Fatherhood Project, I am a case manager there. What we do is a father comes in, and a lot of times for a lot of us navigating these systems and the struggles that we have in the bunch of different phases of child support, or filing motions for visitation, or shared parenting, or sometimes just like earlier today, I was just talking to a dad, just need to vent and get it off. Me being a case manager, we get to break you into the program, and I get to walk with them through these processes and be able to help in every way possible.
What do you see as one? What do you see as one of the biggest? What do you see as one of the biggest challenges that face the fathers that come into your place?
One of the biggest challenges, I believe, I can honestly say from dealing with it, got to be understanding, if that makes sense. Understanding of the co-parent a lot of times, and where that co-parent may stand, or co-parent's family, and getting understanding as a dad, the understanding of how important it is to be a father from the co-parent or from the family sometimes is the biggest thing. So out of that offshoots a lot of the other complications where we have bickering, fighting, and contentious relationships, where understanding will serve as the greatest space, right, to bridge those gaps.
You mentioned co-parenting, and co-parenting is something that's real common today. Um, and your approach in allowing fathers to vent to you, what's some of the tangible things? How do you handle that? Do you get them in a conversation where perhaps they're right or wrong, or how do you manage that? What type of advice do you give to a father who is trying to kind of co-parent, navigate that?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. I always err on the side of there's no right, there's no wrong, right? How I try to explain it to everybody is if you can understand your co-parent side, or if she can understand your side, it usually boils down to you can't tell anyone how to hurt no more than they can tell you how to be happy. So I lean on that all the time. So my dad's, I always tell him, it comes to that space of, okay, well, she should be over all that. Okay, but she's not. And then and the greatest understanding I wish I had earlier in my fatherhood journey was the understanding that we're family anyway, right? Me and that co-parent are going to be family no matter how this turns out. The idea of, once 18, it's over, malarkey. You know what I mean? That's not true. The biggest thing to understand is that this is your family you're talking about. And the way I love, not in a romantic way, because love in its own self has different shapes and dynamics change in that, right? But the way I love on my co-parent tells my child how worthy they are of love, be it a boy or a girl. Right. So if my daughters see me love their mom, or my son sees me loving their mom, though we're not together, at least with the respect of, hey, I honor you for what you do for me in my life. That's an information that's given to that child, just like it is if I say, man, you look just like your mama, you know what I mean? And I'm saying it with disgust, right? Or something like that. So that's always where I go with it. Because again, my biggest thing is, understanding perspective. If we can't say, she's wrong for this and stuff like that, okay, man, her actions may not be to our liking. We don't agree with it, but there's hurt there, there's love there regardless. And if we can lean on that, what we're talking about now is make sure our family is strong, which is really the strength of what we need. On mute. I'm sorry.
Sometimes we hear of fathers being villainized, and sometimes we have mothers who are villainized. And one thing that I hear oftentimes is that sometimes there are fathers who are upset because the girl, baby mom, if you will, has gone on to be with someone else. And then there is an element of control, which says that once you were mine, you always mine, and I have had access to you. We're doing a little real talk tonight. Is that okay? And so that I own it, even when I'm not with it. How do you navigate and deal with those kind of conversations? Because that's really where it is a lot with some people. And I'm gonna mute myself because of feedback. Go ahead.
A lot of those conversations happen, and then again, I lean on what you just said. Let's have some real talk. Hey man, no, it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't, right? The love that you share with somebody, because a lot of times, that's why I lean on understanding, because a lot of times dads will come in and when we get into the grits of it, okay, so you still in love. You want that old thing back. And because again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either, right? Like maybe that's a journey I need to walk with him through. But as long as we get the understanding that you don't own her, she don't own you, and mistakes are happening. If you come here and your approach would rather be, hey, you know what? I think I want to see if I can make this family work. We could be one unit. Okay, well then let's look at those steps. Let's discuss it. Let's see. And understand that might not happen. Either way, we're family. So that's the thing you got to remember when you're dealing with that other side. Okay, so if that's somebody who y'all just didn't work out and it's just not meant to be, like I've gone through that myself, right? It just wasn't meant to be, but that's still my family. I have to care for that because whoever she chooses and things of that nature, we want the door open so we can get to know this brother. We can get to meet him, have some conversations, make sure that our unit is tight and protected. Because as fathers, what more do we want than that, right?
Right, and that's the reality of the day because we have those type of challenges today. And so, Dr. Moss, speak to a little bit about this whole primal instinct that men have that is possessive that it was once mine and it's gonna always be mine.
I think that is a typical instinct for a lot of males and fathers. But a lot of how we react in those circumstances, oftentimes are based upon, just like Andre said, what we then saw growing up. We begin to model what was presented to us. And if we were, modeled relationships were healthy and respectful, then our default would be try to find a way to make this a healthy and respectful dynamic, with the shared parenting. However, if there is a great deal of disrespect and, Lord forbid, trauma that was involved in that, then unfortunately that father is working through that and trying to go through that mire as they're trying to become a father themselves. And we hope that people who have those struggles will have the services of someone like Andre who can kind of walk them through this path. If necessary, that they have the services of a therapist or a counselor who can help them deal with the old stuff from their past, so it doesn't pepper their behaviors today. I mean, it becomes rather complicated, but fortunately, there are some solutions to be able to help fathers figure this out.
Because the reality is that little Pookie and little Ray Ray grew up to be adults, and what happens to them can be long lasting. Here's one of my favorite scenes that really displays and emphasizes how important it is to make sure that you know that whatever's going on in your home is going to affect that child who will become adult and very male, in fact, take on your ways.
When I see what the matter of it was. When I see what the matter of it was, I lost all fear of my daddy, and right there I became a man, 14 years of age. Now it's my turn to run him off. I picked up them same reins he used on me. I picked up them reins. I commenced whooping on him. Gal jump up, she run off. When he turned to face me, I knew why the devil never come and get him, because he was the devil himself. Didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew time had come for me to leave my daddy's house. Suddenly the world got big. It was a long time before I could cut it down the way I could handle it. Part of that cutting down was where I got to the place where I could feel him kicking in my blood, and I knew the only thing that separated us was a matter of a few years. I hope he's dead. Hope he found some peace.
If ever there was a scene in a movie that was gripping and told how children grow up and become the adult versions of the parents, there it is. Dr. Moss.
Just like I was saying before, we unfortunately we mirror what was put in front of us. But what I like to say to all of those men out there who had less than stellar fathers, who had environments that were not shaping, molding of greatness, for all those fathers who come from that situation. What is great is there is an opportunity to change the trajectory. There is an opportunity to flip the script. That opportunity is there. And as a parent, I sometimes I have to wash my face and hands of what I messed up yesterday, and then I have to start today trying to figure out, okay, how can I make this a bit better? And for all those men out there who are struggling trying to figure out this father thing, each day you can make a decision to do this better. And I'm glad that there are resources out there to be able to help us to be able to do that. 30 years ago, there weren't programs and about fatherhood. How do we go about engaging with our children? How can we be the leaders of our home with structure and love? There weren't programs to do that, but now there are many programs that are able to give men the resources to do that. But the opportunity is there to create something different, to break generational curses, to be able to do all of that. That's there. The opportunity is there in front of us. Just have to take the courage to be able to make that first step.
And just to really understand that dad is needed, and despite if he's not in the home, we need to know, the man needs to know that he can't go missing.
Oh, yeah.
And even though he may not be with mom, it's not an excuse for him to say, well, deuce up to the children as well. There's a responsibility because according to what can the federal government do to decrease crime and revitalization communities from the U.S. Department of Justice, children from fatherless homes account for 63% of youth suicides, 90% of runaways, 85% of behavioral disorders, 71% of high school dropouts, 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions, 75% of adolescent patients in substance abuse centers. And in terms of aggression, 75% of rapists are motivated by displaced anger. And so to understand that the father needs to be present is critical. And I think sometimes we don't understand that. And not only present in a home, but attentive, involved, because you still can be present in the home and still be absent.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have contact and you're not involved with your child. Here's a gritty scene, and I was sharing with Dr. Moss. I was finding a whole lot of clips, very few positive ones, but really was speaking to the issue. But here's another clip, and I'm curious to get both of you guys' reaction to this.
It was great seeing you, son.
You too, Lou.
Yeah,
I ain't need him then, and I don't need him now.
Will.
Nah, you know what, Uncle Phil? I'm gonna get through college without him. I'm gonna get a great job without him. I'm gonna marry me a beautiful honey, and I'm having me a whole bunch of kids. I'm gonna be a better father than he ever was. And I sure as hell don't need him for that, because ain't a damn thing he could ever teach me about how to love my kids. How come he don't want me, man?
If you are or you have a bad relationship with the father of your children, and you don't think your presence matters, though that was a depiction, I believe it's a reality for many people. Wouldn't you say, DeAndre? Andre.
Absolutely. I remember watching that scene when it first came. I was a child, and my experience, my childhood experience mirrored that a lot. So I remember crying. I remember the first time I asked my mama why my dad didn't want me. How that felt. And like you said, a lot of displaced anger, a lot of confusion. But like you said, if nothing else, I look at that now, and I remember, for one, Will talks about it a lot, being the defining moment in his acting career, right? Like, tapping into that type of emotion. I just look at it like like how like kind of what you said, how I must champion a fatherhood journey in all facets, right? Because even for that dad growing up, and now again leaning on understanding, me and my father have a great relationship now. We've maintained one since I was 21 years old, and it was hard. It was difficult. But being able to hear him now, I look at the dad now, and I'm thinking about, so this is again for all the message for all those dads out there who may not be living up to what they feel is the best fatherhood journey. It's never too late. Because I have an understanding of all the things that happen. When we look at our parents, we have to look at the era that raised them, the people that raised them, all of these things that go into it, because at the Fatherhood Project, we move with an understanding that every father innately wants the very best for their child. And sometimes when they feel like that they aren't good enough, and the best they can give is my absence, because that was a lot of understanding for a lot of them. That's still a father trying to love you the best way he knows how. And it's sometimes if we allow ourselves that space of opening and understanding and love, we can allow a room where now we can teach our fathers how to love us. And we can use that in our fatherhood journey to be the best dads that we can be.
That's great. That was powerful. And the real thing is that we talk about that oftentimes father figures are portrayed as just being specifically and just solely the disciplinarian. But back in Bible times, the father really is portrayed as a nurturer as well. And I think that some of us, we want the father to beat his chest. We want to tell him how to do the rough and tough stuff. We want him to. We want our father. Some of us. To show our children how to sow their wild oats, and as someone said, then pray for crop failure. We want them to do all these things to man up. We want to be a player. We want to have a Sunday woman and a weekday hoe. And that's a challenge in sometimes culture how we portray that instead of being responsible and being loving. I mean, my second old son, I when I see him sometime, I say, "Come here, boy." He's 27. I'll kiss him in the forehead. And my dad's role when I was coming, he was a provider, right? But he wasn't on that mushy mush stuff, right? So I would watch something on television and I'd see a dad kissing his father on the cheek, then I'd go try it, And so when I did it, I remember doing it one day, my pops was like, well, he looked at me like, he just stopped and he went back reading. So reading the newspaper. But when we talked about eras and generation and times, how fathers saw themselves as what they needed to be. Old school was especially you chopped the wood, Dr. Moss, and you held to that, and you didn't do anything else. Mama did that. In fact, it was said that I'm going to do this, your mama's going to do A. Okay, but we live in a time now that fathers must be in touch with their nurturing self, and I believe brothers need to know their love more than anything. What would it mean, do you think, of from a psychological standpoint, Dr. Moss, if someone failed to receive love from their father, now receives it?
I think that it would be an adjustment, right? Is this real? How long is this going to last? That would be the first thing. But gosh, it would grow to be reassuring. It would. Even for many adults to finally get that type of that level of intimacy and nurturing from their parent. I think that most people would love that. And it's funny that a lot of the challenges that adults have in navigating with other adults and challenges that they have in their marriages and relationships come from the lack of intimacy sometimes that they receive from their parents. So yes, it doesn't make everything 100% better, but gosh, it does bring a level of closeness and building of the relationship, which may in fact allow that person to be a better individual for other people.
So believe it or not, Andre, we're almost out of time. Share just from your perspective, what parting wisdom would you like to share with the brothers out there who may be wanting to grow in their role as fathers, but because of what they've seen, what they've witnessed, are just struggling?
The same thing I kind of live by all the time is two main phrases. It's easier to be upset than understanding, but better to be upset. Better to be understanding than upset. So if you can always just offer perspective, it's difficult. And then my next thing is the one I live by all the time too. This fatherhood journey, or just growing up and being a man, or just growing up, right? It's going to have its difficulties. Difficult is not impossible. You can handle that. So
That's good, brother. That's good.
thank you.
Dr. Moss, help the men that perhaps have had a traumatic childhood and perhaps the only thing they know has been ill and dysfunctional. Give encouragement tonight of how they may seek help and fight through that past.
You know, I believe that we're all are redeemable, regardless of what we've done, and we all have an opportunity for better. There are so many people out there who have expertise, who have a passion and a love to be able to help men deal with some of this trauma of the past. You know, I work with a lot of men who suffer from addiction, you know, who've experienced things and who've done things that, you know, less than admirable. But they are able to find a way to get things turned around with appropriate resources and help. Programs like what Andre is describing, you know, sounds like an awesome way for a lot of men to be able to start turning some things around. And it's never too late. It is never too late. You know, your child could be 25 years old, and it's never too late to be able to see what you can do to better that relationship. So
Awesome. Well, thanks again, brothers. And Andre, we're going to have you hang on right after the show. To our viewers, those of you who are joining us tonight and those that will review this show after this initial broadcast, we want you to be encouraged tonight that you had no say-so as to who your parents, who your mother, who your father would be. You did not you were not able to select them. But whether that father was very positive or was very negative, it does not necessarily mean that what was mirrored and exemplified for you, if it was not positive, that you have to take on yourself. But by all means, realize that in every person, there is the good, there is the bad, and there is the ugly. Take what you can. And if you're hurting tonight and you need help, you can inbox me. If you'd like me to put you in touch with Andre and you want to be a part of the Fatherhood Project, you can call down to the Talbot House and ask for that program. Ask for Andre, and he will provide you and let you know when the meetings are, so you'll get the support you need. Because I agree with him that innately that there is good in every person, and that truly some fathers are not able to be the best fathers because they have not been shown how. But it's never too late. And so till next time, we leave you, as always, with this encouragement. We just want to encourage you to feel better, become better, and we really want you to live better. Good night, everyone.